Hey, hi, Lisa Marie here, and happy Turkey Week to you. It is Monday, the week of Thanksgiving, and guess what? At my water cooler, break room, kitchen thingy here at work, a conversation came up again. Well, let me press go. A conversation came up, actually some questions came up because everybody started talking about where they're going, what they're doing, and what they feel they'll be eating, and how they're already planning. Hey, Tammy. They're already talking negative. They're already saying things in the negative of how much they'll overeat and all the places they're going and things like that. And I was just kind of like, my mindset has changed. I used to talk like that as well. I used to say the same things. So then a couple of them looked at me and they said, well, what are you going to do? And I said, well, kind of the same thing I've been doing for the last few years. And I plan ahead what I am going to eat and or how much. And they're like, well, what if you go somewhere and you don't know what they have? And I look at my hands. And they're like, you look at your hands? What? And I said, look, God made each of us with hands. And our hand is designed for our body for what our food nutrition needs to be. Well, then they were like, okay, explain. This is like crazy. And what? I said, well, because I get hungry and my portions are small, I eat every 2.5, at the most 3 hours. So in my mind, even if I'm going to one place for Thanksgiving, sometimes we've gone to 2, 3, 4 places, but I know I'm going to have a lot of opportunities to eat, right? And they're like, so if I already know I'm going to have 3, just say 3, I'm going to have 3 different opportunities to have Thanksgiving meal. When I have a meal, I try to focus on protein first, and then vegetables, and then carbs. And they're like, okay, well, stuffing's my favorite. Oh, mashed potatoes are my favorite. And I said, I think we should be able to have these things and not feel bad about them, but also not overindulge. Your body can only process so much at a time. And in that, calorically, protein-wise, our bodies can only process 30 grams of protein at one time. So if you give it 100, you've just wasted, 70 grams of protein? So why? And they were like, explain this hand thing. And I said, okay, my hand is for me and my body. My body, this is the size of my protein. However, since I've had my surgery, I really hardly ever have that much. I probably have take away 2 fingers, sometimes 1 finger, depends on what it is. If it's fish, I can get away with this whole piece right here. And then this whole thing is my vegetables. So if I want green beans and corn and something else, it's the distance of my hand. Okay, only this big. And then carbs, you bend your fingers over, here's your carbs. So if I want mashed potatoes, sweet potatoes, stuffing, blah, 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 all that stuff, which those don't go good for me, but if I wanted them, I would have a teaspoon of one, another teaspoon of another teaspoon of another, whatever. Or I would put a little bit of these servings on my plate, and then I would just have a bite. If there was something that the bite was really good, I might have it again. But it's really going to take up too much space when I've got the vegetables and the meat. Then you've got this much here of some kind of fat. So if you're going to have butter or things like that, you're only having this bent part of your thumb. Then there's not too many nuts and seeds and things like that. And of course, the subject came up, well, what about dessert? And I said, I hardly ever have room for dessert at that time. So if I'm waiting 2 hours before I eat and before I have dessert, I would still use my hand as a guide, but I would keep it I would keep it really about this big at the most, but I keep it about the size of my knuckles because it's a sugar. Most desserts are sugar. That's a carb. And I just try to keep it that size. And that's what works for me. Then, what did they ask me? Oh, so, so the other thing came up about, well, how much do you know that is? And I said, well, you just kind of learn over time, but our bodies are like this bank, and all of us have this bank, but not everybody's bank is the same. God made our bodies to need to live and breathe and function a certain amount of calories. And if we have more than what we are supposed to be having, we're not doing anything good. We're just shoving it in. We're taking our allowance from somebody else. We're overusing it. We're overstuffing it, and all it's going to do is create fat. It's not going to create nourishment that produces our ability to function. I said, so we all have this allowance, and it actually matches our hands. This is our allowance. Now, if you're active or you're sedentary, your need for the processing is a little different, because when you're expending all of your energy, you do have to put a little more back in. And then I just focus on the protein more than the carby stuff. And if I do carby stuff, I do the natural vegetable stuff. And it just was really interesting. They were all kind of thinking, I go, okay, so holidays are coming up, and now is like the list of so many. First of all, don't use the ginormous plate, because what is that? That's 2, if not 3 hands. That is not what's comfortable for your body. And if you put into your head that you're going to be able to eat again in 2 hours, 3 hours at the most, you can fix another plate. You can fix another plate. And because you've already tasted things, you already know the things that are your favorite, the things that you really want seconds of. So there you go. And they were all like just amazed. And I said, just try it. Instead of getting that ginormous plate that they give you, use that as a charger or something pretty to hold the dessert plate. Put the dessert plate on top of that big plate. Now you've got a little more stability. And I said, and you don't have to use that big old hunkin' serving spoon that they put in there. If you keep your silverware with you, do half of that. Or use your plastic spoon and give yourself a serving. Again, I'm not talking about deprivation. I'm not talking about depriving yourself of something that is really what you really want. We're grown adults. God gave us a choice. We can fill our body with stuff that's good and nutritious, or we can fill it with crap. The thing is, we will suffer or benefit depending on which way we choose. So several of the people, there were 6 of us in there. So 3 of them were like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And they're going to do it tonight because they're actually going for a Friendsgiving tonight somewhere. And I said, and people are going to probably look at you funny and say whatever, and just say, you're just watching your portions and you're trying to not overstuff yourself. You want to be able to be awake for the games or the TV or the fun or the walk or the whatever. And they were just like, this was like mind-blowing to them. And I was like, there's no rule that we have to be overly stuffed and overly full to where then we don't enjoy Thanksgiving. And isn't Thanksgiving what we're supposed to be thankful for, things we have and the people who we're with? And they were just like, this is just different. And then of course the comments were like, well, that's why you're so skinny. And I'm like, no, I have not always been this way. And it is definitely a new habit, but I feel so much better. I feel really good when I limit my portions and I enjoy what I have. And if I take a bite of something and I don't like it, I always have 2 or 3 napkins. And I discreetly just kind of put it in there, and I don't take more bites of that. They don't care. People don't care, really. They might say, oh, you know, is everything okay? Yeah, everything's great. I'm just enjoying it. I'm savoring your good cooking. I am just enjoying the company, blah, 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 whatever. I mean, whatever's true, but that's what I do. And I really am enjoying it, and I savor it. And so then later, when I've got that second round of hunger coming, and for me, every time this happens, it'll be a couple hours later, I'm like, oh, I'm hungry again. And people go, how could you think of food? I'm still full. And I'm like, oh, well, I just need a little something. And I get my little plate again, and I go get the things that I really liked, or maybe that I missed and I overheard everybody just going gaga over. And again, I focus on the protein and then the vegetables and then a little bit of carbs as kind of a splurgy thing. But if I can encourage you, there is no rule. You do not have to eat everything. You do not have to be stuffed, and you do not have to clean your plate. Bring a to-go box. If you're going somewhere where they, you know, make you clean your plate, then you clean your plate into a to-go box that you're going to enjoy later, even if it is in 2 hours or when you get home, whatever. Most people just want to make sure that you're okay and satisfied. And if they already know that you've elected to have surgical weight loss, then hopefully they're already compassionate to that and they understand that your limit is this big. So have a great rest of the day. I am going to read, but this just happened and it was so funny. I just had to share it with you. So I'll talk to you in a little bit. Bye.